The sun was setting over the remote village of Santa Maria, located on the island of Panay in the Philippines. Thomas and Peter were walking home from a long day of fishing, chatting and laughing about their latest catch. As they approached their homes, they saw a group of villagers gathered outside the church, murmuring in hushed tones. Curiosity getting the best of them, the two friends approached the crowd to find out what was happening. A woman was crying, her face twisted with grief. She spoke in a trembling voice, telling the crowd about her daughter, who had gone missing the night before. Thomas and Peter exchanged a look, both feeling a sense of unease. It wasn't the first time they had heard of someone disappearing in the night. In fact, it had become a common occurrence in the village over the past few months. Rumors had been circulating that the Aswang, a shape-shifting creature from Philippine folklore, was behind the disappearances. The Aswang was said to be able to take on various forms, including a bat, a bird, or a dog. It was known for its ability to eat human organs and prey on pregnant women and children. Thomas and Peter had always dismissed the stories as superstition, but as they looked around at the somber faces of their neighbors, they couldn't help but feel a creeping sense of dread. That night, as they lay in their beds, Thomas and Peter couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. Every creak of the house, every rustle of the leaves outside, made their hearts race. Suddenly, there was a loud crash from outside, and the sound of footsteps running away. Thomas and Peter leaped out of bed, grabbing their weapons, a machete and a spear, and rushed outside. They saw a figure disappearing into the darkness, but couldn't make out any details. As they approached, they saw that their chicken coop had been broken into, the chickens slaughtered and torn apart. The two friends searched the area, but found no sign of the intruder. As they returned to their homes, they couldn't help but feel a sense of foreboding. Over the next few weeks, the disappearances in the village continued. Children and pregnant women would vanish without a trace, and the villagers were becoming more and more afraid. Thomas and Peter had taken to patrolling the streets at night, determined to protect their families and friends. One night, as they were making their rounds, they heard a strange sound coming from a nearby alleyway. They cautiously approached, weapons at the ready. As they peered into the darkness, they saw a figure crouched over a small child, its back to them. The figure was covered in hair, with long claws protruding from its fingers. Thomas and Peter froze, their minds racing as they tried to figure out what to do. Suddenly, the figure turned its head, revealing a grotesque, bat-like face with glowing red eyes. They knew then that they were face to face with the Aswang. Without thinking, Thomas charged forward, swinging his machete. The Aswang dodged easily and swiped at Thomas with its claws, tearing into his flesh. Peter rushed forward, thrusting his spear at the creature. The Aswang let out a blood-curdling scream and vanished into thin air. Thomas collapsed to the ground, his blood staining the pavement. Peter knelt beside him, tears streaming down his face. He pleaded with Thomas to stay with him, reassuring him that help was on the way and that he would make it through. But he knew it was a lie. Thomas was already gone. The villagers found them soon after, and the news of Thomas's death spread quickly. The village was plunged into mourning and fear as they realized that the Aswang was real and had claimed one of their own. Peter was inconsolable. He blamed himself for Thomas's death, feeling that he had failed to protect his friend. He became obsessed with finding and killing the Aswang, convinced that it was the only way to avenge Thomas's death and protect the village. Over the next few weeks, Peter spent his days and nights patrolling the village, searching for any sign of the creature. He grew increasingly paranoid, convinced that it was watching him, waiting for the right moment to strike. One night, Peter heard a strange noise coming from the forest outside the village. He cautiously approached, his spear at the ready. As he entered the forest, he noticed that the trees seemed to be alive with movement. Branches twisted and turned, and leaves rustled as though something was watching him. Peter tried to ignore it, telling himself that it was just his imagination playing tricks on him. Suddenly, he heard a blood-curdling scream. It was a woman's voice, coming from deep within the forest. Peter immediately set out to investigate, following the sound of the scream. As he drew closer, he saw a figure standing in the clearing ahead of him. It was the Aswang. The creature was humanoid in shape, but its skin was gray and leathery, and its eyes glowed red in the darkness. Its mouth was filled with sharp teeth, and its hands ended in long, clawed fingers. It grinned at him, revealing its glistening fangs. Without hesitation, he lunged forward, thrusting his spear at the creature. But it was too quick for him, and it dodged out of the way. Suddenly, Peter felt a sharp pain in his side. He looked down to see the Aswang's claws embedded in his flesh. It tore at his flesh with its razor-sharp claws, ripping through his clothes and skin with ease. Peter tried to fight back with his spear, but the Aswang was too fast. It dodged his blows effortlessly, taunting him with its hissing laughter. Peter screamed for help, but no one came. He was alone, trapped in the forest with the Aswang. He screamed, his world spinning as he fell to the ground. The Aswang loomed over him, its glowing red eyes filled with malice. As he lay dying on the ground, Peter could see the Aswang feeding on his organs. It was a horrifying sight, and he knew that he's going to die. But before he passed out, he saw something even more terrifying. The Aswang had shapeshifted into a young girl. With that, it disappeared into the darkness, leaving Peter bleeding and alone. The villagers found him the next morning, barely clinging to life. They rushed him to the nearest hospital, but it was too late. Peter had sustained fatal injuries and died on the operating table. The village was plunged into darkness, consumed by fear and grief. The Aswang continued to prey on the villagers, its reign of terror unchecked. Over time, the village became a ghost town, abandoned by those who had managed to escape the Aswang's grasp. The few who remained told tales of the creature that had claimed the lives of so many, warning outsiders to stay away. And so, the legend of the Aswang lived on, a dark reminder of the horrors that could be lurking in the shadows.